Hi, and today we're going to be looking at spontaneous argumentation, also known as SPAR, and we're going to be using the rules commonly employed for middle school and for elementary school. Now, SPAR is a speaking event in which two opponents face off, so it's one speaker versus another speaker. And SPAR is notable for its very simple topics, its short prep time, and its short speaking time. And a lot of the times it's great for new speakers because it has very fun topics such as riding your bike is better than scootering and things like that. So it's easy to come up with arguments off the top of your head. They're very short and it can be a great intro to the world of impromptu speaking. And note what's interesting about SPAR is that it's often considered a speaking event, not a debating event, because again, it has this emphasis on fluency in terms of thinking on your feet rather than actual prepared argumentation. There are two sides in SPAR, pro and con, often known as AF and neg as well. Now, here are the rules. One speaker is assigned pro, the other con, and then they debate a resolution. And a resolution is just a fancy word for the topic that is up for debate. Here's an example, a resolution. Flying is a better superpower than invisibility. This is a pretty typical SPAR resolution. However, resolutions are never questions, they're always statements. So you never get a resolution that was like, is flying better than invisibility? It's always going to be a statement. Now, after the resolution and the sides are given, the speakers get a total of 2 minutes to prepare without internet. And internet honestly wouldn't be of great use with such a short time frame. Because of the short prep time, it's a lot about coming up with arguments both in your head during the prep time and being able to flesh them out as you speak, rather than trying to prepare everything as you would for longer or even prepared versions of debate. So here are the speaking times. Pro gets 2 minutes, con gets 2 minutes, and then there's a 4-minute cross-examination period, which we'll get into a little bit later. The pro then gets 2 minutes, and then the con gets 2 minutes to wrap it up and end the debate. In total, SPAR debates take 14 minutes, including prep time, so they're actually very quick and it's easy to do a bunch of them in a row. Let's look at the case, and a case is just the sum of everything that comes out of a side's mouth. So there's a pro case and then there's a con case. Now, the pro gets to do a special thing in their case where they introduce the top of case. So the top of case has two components, definitions and a value. Now, pro gets to present definitions that are for all of the relevant terms in the resolution. Now, if they want, pro can present a value as well. Now, a value is essentially the scale or some sort of measure to determine how important or how impactful each argument is. So, whichever side can prove that they adhere most to this value wins. So, they're saying, well, on the basis of this value, this argument proves that the resolution is true or that the resolution is false. Now, so here's an example. Say the resolution is chocolate is better than vanilla. Now, the definitions for chocolate and vanilla show that we're talking about dessert flavor. So, see how the pro got to define or scope the resolution in a more specific manner. They also chose a value of tastiness. So, that just means for this resolution, okay, well, whoever can prove that chocolate is tastier than vanilla, or the vice versa, should win. So, we're looking at goodness in regards to tastiness. All right, so both sides will introduce arguments, obviously, and these arguments are called contentions. Now, both pro and con use the same structure. However, if you're on the con, contentions are called counter contentions because they're on the con case. Now, contentions are formatted in Toulmin's model, which sounds a lot fancier than it actually is. Toulmin's model is just claim, data, and warrant. A claim is a statement of what the argument is saying. And then data is just the backing or the explanation of why the claim is true. And then the warrant is saying what that means in terms of the value and the resolution as a whole. Now, one other component that is often used is a tagline, and this is quickly used to refer back to a contention. So let's look at an example. The tagline for this contention, or the sum of just what it is in one or two words, is a popularity. The claim is that chocolate is more popular, so that's the argument. The data is demonstrating just that chocolate is statistically more popular than vanilla, and then the warrant says, okay, well, on the value of tastiness, more people obviously consider chocolate to be better than vanilla. Therefore, the pro side of the resolution wins. So that's all a warrant does. And a tagline is useful because, say I was con, and I want to say something like, okay, now I will be attacking the contention about popularity. That way I could quickly say just popularity without having to repeat the entire claim or the entire contention. So, uh, just throughout the course of the debate, the job of the two debaters is to be attacking their opponent's case and then defending their own. Now, the exception to this speech format is the cross examination period. And during the CX, or the cross X, or the crossfire, it has a bunch of different names, it's no one's official speaking time. Rather, the debaters ask each other pointed questions to expose holes in each other's cases. So, a lot of the times, debaters will take turns, and these are supposed to highlight the flaws in their opponent's cases and demonstrate where their reasoning doesn't pan out, for example. Now, just before you say your contentions or the top of case, if you're on the pro, both the pro and the con should give a little bit of a teaser or an attention grabber at the beginning of their first speech. And this can make SPAR really fun. So, hooks, however, because you only have 2 minutes during your speech, should be no longer than 10 seconds. I like to do something like sing a song, or if you know one off the top of your head, give a surprising stat. However, statistics are generally not super important in SPAR debate for the simple reason that there's no internet. You don't have time to develop statistics or to, go find direct evidence. Now, let's look at just an example resolution, which is foreign languages should be taught at schools. And so let's look at the pro side first. So their hook was to speak in a foreign language, and their definitions were specifying that in this case, foreign language is just the language that the school doesn't typically teach in. Okay. Now, the value that they've chosen is education. And what this means for the round is that on the basis of education, foreign language should be taught in schools, or maybe it shouldn't. So either way, either side should be proving, okay, well, in terms of education, this is good, or this is bad for, learning. Now, I just provided one example claim and one example contention. I haven't actually fleshed it out or given multiple. However, 2 to 3 is considered normal, depending on the amount of time you have, especially since you can't really do more than that, since there's only 2 minutes of prep time and then only 2 minutes of speaking time. So the first contention here is that foreign languages expose students to new concepts. So that's saying, well, based on education, you learn more stuff. Now, here is the con's case. And the con introduced a hook that went more than the pathos direction, where they gave a moving description of a populace that doesn't have a good education. So this hook is a lead up to their counter contention. And again, this is just the claim of the argument. I didn't actually provide multiple, but again, around 2 to 3 is normal. So the counter contention states that foreign languages mean that students will not have enough time for other subjects, and this is bad for education because they won't be able to learn other important subjects as well. So, even though the rebuttals aren't written in, throughout the duration of the debate, the pro and the con would attack each other's cases and rebuild their own. Now, I've given some example questions about what might be brought up in the cross-examination, and note that they're pointed questions that are designed to force your opponents into a corner or try and back them into defending something that is tricky to defend. So here's an example where the pro asks the con, well, if they're not taught foreign languages at school, where are they supposed to learn it? And con responded by saying, well, there's a lot of free language apps that can help with learning foreign languages. And then the con asked the pro, where will schools find the budget to have a foreign language program? And pro said, well, there's other electives that can be replaced to get space or money for these foreign language programs. And remember that these questions and these answers are all impromptu. They're tailored to the cases of each. So it's important to be able to think on the fly, and this can make SPAR really fun. Now, one last thing I'd like to address is this idea of presumption. Now, this is more stylistic, however, sometimes con has a special power called presumption, which means that they only must win by 50%. So, for example, con can prove that, rather than proving that vanilla is better than chocolate, which is the opposite of the resolution, they can prove that chocolate and vanilla are equal. So this gives them this power, so that if it's not clear definitively which is better, con would win. And yes, while this does make con easier, pro does get to define the scoping of the resolution, so it evens out. All right, that's it, and I hope you learned something about SPAR debate.